Welcome to the football show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Scott Allen, Ryan McGowan and Tam McManus here with us in the studio with lots to talk about. Celtic hammered in Dortmund, Rangers prepare for Lyon, Valakari checks in at St Johnstone, and we'll also discuss the Scotland squad. Nicky Devlin, Aberdeen right back, gets a well-earned call-up to the squad as well, and I don't think you can wipe the smile off his dad's face at this moment. Super proud. So, lots to discuss in the international scene, but more importantly, we're going to start with what happened in the Westfalen Stadium. Borussia Dortmund 7, Celtic 1. Before we get into the meat and bones of it, am I being overly critical in suggesting that there are, in the last 5 years, punditry and journalism, not all, but quite a lot, it's just beggars belief. Some of the pundits I've been listening to suggest that Celtic could go to Borussia Dortmund and win beggars belief, because we've already stated in this show we thought they would lose against Dortmund, thought they would lose against Atalanta because of levels. And if you look at the stats of Borussia Dortmund, Champions League finalists last year, they've only lost 2 games in 22 at home in the Champions League. This is a side that were facing Celtic, who hadn't won in 15 attempts of going to Germany.
Yes, you mentioned a word there, and it was levels, Peter. And I think Celtic got a taste of their own medicine. You know, they dish that out here on a regular basis. I'm sure there was fans of St Mirren and Hibs and Hearts and Aberdeen just having their eyes smile last night watching that game, thinking that's what you do domestically. You know, you run over the top of teams. Celtic went and had a go. Listen, people can argue either way. You know, you want to go and see an open game, but I think for Celtic, you know, you've seen over the last 4 or 5 seasons, you need to go away from home and be more defensive minded. I get it at home when the crowd's behind you and you're getting rolled on and stuff like that, but away from home to open up and go and try and press Dortmund was suicidal last night, and I think they were fortunate to get away with 7-1. I mean, it was 5-1 at half time, Peter, and I'm thinking this could be Celtic's worst ever defeat. Second half they were better, but first half, you know, they didn't keep the ball, they were wide open as soon as they lost the ball. To be fair to Dortmund, everything they seemed to hit went in the net. I think every time Celtic gave the ball away, it was a goal. They were severely punished, but that's what happens, Peter. Dortmund are an elite team. They're one of the favourites. They got to the final last season. They spent a lot of money in the summer. They'll be favourites to get to the semi-finals and stuff again. So if you're Celtic, you go to Atalanta in a couple of weeks. I don't think you can go and play that way again. If you play that way against Celtic, against top teams, you're going to get murdered. It's simple.
I don't mind, Scott, I don't mind fans being unbelievably enthusiastic. I mean, yesterday I was out playing tennis with a few guys who are Celtic fans, and they were saying, oh, you know, we think we can do it. You know, it could be just a wee bit of luck here, a wee sneak here. You're always going to get the anomaly, something that can happen in a football game. But to look at everything and see it in the cold light of day and the differences between the two sides, Celtic would need to have played a different way. The manager has to, in my mind, he still has an overall picture of what this group's all about. But if you're playing top teams, you don't go in. I mean, I wouldn't go in if you were a boxer, in a boxing analogy, I wouldn't go in with Mike Tyson and think, I'm going to slug it with him.
I think purely based on how Celtic have started the season, the confidence, the group and what Brendan Rodgers has instilled, and we spoke on about the counter press, how some of the goals they've scored have been fantastic. I think if you're a coaching staff like Brendan Rodgers, John Kennedy, and you've watched Dortmund's last 2 league games, taking away the Champions League for a moment, and you see them conceding 7 goals over 2 games, and then you look at what you've got in attack and the amount of chance you've been creating, you would have sat there saying, if we do ABC, we could create chances and get these players into certain areas where they could hurt Dortmund and cause problems. I think, me looking at the game before it kicked off, I wasn't so sure Celtic would win, but I felt Celtic would create a lot of chances against them, purely based on how Dortmund's last 2 games in the league had went. So, to get back to your original question, playing differently, well, Carlo Ancelotti, they go away to Man City last season. Real Madrid basically spent the whole game defending their box and end up getting the prize at the end of it, and that's winning the Champions League again. So if these sort of teams can go to certain arenas around Europe and adapt their game, then you would like to see that. But I think Brendan Rodgers will look at last night. There'll be lots of lessons learned in terms of what the players felt on the pitch and what he's seen and what they'll see even more watching back, because it's okay in the light of day when you're doing an interview after the game. He's not went back and analysed it, and come Atalanta, I would imagine you would see a different sort of Celtic. I think as well, on top of that, Kyogo was pressing the goalkeeper at 35 minutes into the game, which had no effect and wasn't stopping them playing a pass. All it was doing was taking a man out of Celtic's press as such, and it made it so easy for Dortmund to play around.
I'm glad you mentioned Carlo Ancelotti, because Carlo Ancelotti changed the way Real Madrid played because of what happened the previous season. You have to learn your lessons, Ryan. I mean, at times, you know, and I think Celtic deserve all the praise for the way they've started the season. Some of the football they've been playing in our league, which is a poor league, let's be honest about it, some of the football they've been playing has been a joy to watch. But when we're talking about the levels, you can't go in against a Borussia Dortmund side and think you're going to play tiki-taka football with them. Because at 10 minutes, I was thinking to myself, more than a few Celtic fans will be behind the couch watching this. This was like watching Spurs in the Premier League. You know, when Ange just says gung-ho, let's leave the two at the back.
But it works to get a 3-0 at
not when you've got 9 players and you're playing Chelsea. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
It's one of those mad ones you're thinking, stop.
Yeah, it's just difficult. And I mentioned it about Rangers a couple of weeks ago. The problem that Celtic have is that they don't get tested at that level week in, week out. They go from playing against the likes of Motherwell and St Johnstone and Hibs, and then they go up 20 classes to play Dortmund away. And those little mistakes, you know, I think Maeda gave the ball away at the edge of the box, goal. I think every time they gave the ball away, it seemed to be a goal. Whereas at the weekend, they don't get punished. And if they were playing like that week in, week out at a higher level, the players would eventually get used to it. But I think they just go from such a standard week in, week out, where they're winning 5-6-0 every week, to that golf, and it's too quick of a change for them to get up to pace.
But to be fair, and this is the point that I think we all try and analyse games, we all try and analyse players and teams and levels. When you're in a situation where, for example, I mean, I was at Wembley and watched Borussia Dortmund play Real Madrid in the final, and they had chances that they couldn't take. If they'd taken them, that might have been a different game. But Real Madrid reverted to tight, wait, bide their time, pick them off, game's over. They had 5 of that Champions League final team still retained, different manager, but obviously I think they're 5th in the Bundesliga, 3 points off the top spot, and he's building a team. But boy, did they play that ball quickly through. I mean, if in Scotland, when you were what you would consider half decent playing football, if any midfielder stood off you and gave you time, you would kill them. And that, for me, was the key to it all. The Celtics midfield had no time to lift their head because there was a yellow and black, vision coming towards them, stopping them, closing them, pressing them, and then when they get the ball, bang, one touch, quick.
I think that's where Ryan makes the point in terms of what Celtic face week in, week out compared to Dortmund is they don't have that. Even when Celtic play Rangers can't press with the intensity that Dortmund have. Dortmund can go away to Leipzig, Leverkusen, Bayern Munich. They have a lot of their games throughout the season. They play them in the Cup, so they're at that level. The experience, obviously, in European competition over the last 4 or 5 years, obviously they've done really well. But I think it was more the areas where they gave the ball away, and it's something about Celtic and Brendan Rodgers have kind of prided themselves on recently, and that's playing through the best press quickly. But you're now playing against a team with ability, speed, and the football IQ. So when it doesn't go exactly how you think it's going to go in terms of the analysis that you've done during the week, you then need to have answers. When that ball comes to Maeda should just set the ball back. But because he's so composure, because of the arena, the atmosphere, he takes that heavy touch. That's one of the touch Ryan tells you a player when you feel like your back's to the wall and should I go there? Not. He takes a heavy touch, it then leads to a goal. See if you're sitting at 1-0 up, you put your foot in the ball, you lay it back to Cal McGregor gets you up the pitch, or you take the ball, you feel the contact and you buy your team a foul. That was a nervous touch from a player who's, even last night, was probably one of Celtic's better players in terms of the situation, but over the PCC he's been excellent. He looked nervous last night, and that's what that touch showed.
Yeah, we did talk about levels, and so did Brendan Rodgers after the game.
Yeah, listen, it's very, very difficult for us to get to that level. It's a different level, with the greatest respect. But what we'd want to be is more competitive than we were tonight. I think that was what was disappointing from our perspective. But the level it's always a learning process, and like you say, it for us, we've seen tonight the very highest level of the European game, and for us we get punished, but we will learn from it for sure.
Yeah, because I'll tell you one area where I really do have sympathy for him is quite simply, nobody expected Celtic to go in and beat Borussia Dortmund. His role...
A lot of fans did.
Well, of course, but that's after 15 beers and then you all head to the game. I think some pundits must have been with them as well. But when you get to a situation where Brendan
You want to name them?
I mean, honestly, come on. I mean, there's one thing I can't stand is flag wavers who just basically bleat out, I think Celtic can do it. I mean, honestly, I'm looking, I hate to say this, but for fuck's sake. Honestly, Celtic were going to get pumped. I told everybody in here they were going to get pumped.
I genuinely didn't think they would get... I thought they would create chances, and I thought the way they played might have allowed it to be competitive to an extent, and then their clash would kind of show through.
Yeah. I mean, somebody suggested last night, oh, well, Atalanta will play differently. And I'm thinking, please don't go down that route. They've won the Europa League last year.
Maybe that Leverkusen side. That Leverkusen side.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, this is why I have sympathy for Brendan Rodgers on this point, which is quite simply, Tam, his role is to try and come back. In my mind, he was brought back for European football to see a progression, right? And we're talking about levels. Opta reckon that you'll get, if you can get 9 points, now give or take an absolute Rodgering again. Yeah, exactly. The situation is 9 points gets you qualification. That's what he must be looking at. He's looking and saying to himself, well, let's see what's in the horizon, and then if we've learned our lesson from it, you can go and start to say Atalanta away, Leipzig at home. I'm not too sure they could. I think they could still get battered with them as well. Bruges at home, possibility. Zagreb away.
You would like to fancy that one?
Yes.
Yeah. Young Boys at home.
Yep.
Young Boys and Bruges are where I think Celtic will be looking. Brendan will be saying, "There's your 6 points to go with the 3. There's your 9, right?"
Yep.
Is that fair? That for me would be him looking and saying, that's our remit this season. Season 1, really good. They've now responded after that last year where they weren't playing great football. Yep. Playing really good football now. There's your remit. Get 9 points, get a qualification game, bag more money, and then people go, Brendan, you've done your job.
Yeah, and I think that's probably internally what they've been looking at, is that they knew that these types of games are going to be difficult, and I think from what he's been saying in the press, he wants to just continually play that way because he believes that way he's going to beat the young boys, the Bruges, when they do come to Celtic Park. And that's where he is putting all his eggs, is to win those 2 games, get your 9 points, sneak a couple of points away, and then that should see him through. And what you would say is that I don't think the players performed as well. Everyone's allowed an off night, but I think a lot of those players were well below par last night in terms of how they have been playing. But that comes down to the environment. They've been put under pressure that they've never been put under pressure in the last 6 months. So I think a lot of players would have got a big wake-up call from the types of, like you said, levels that they have to go up to compete at that level.
And this is where the manager will realise, and I don't think anybody in the back end of Celtic's board will be looking at Brendan Rodgers and saying, hey, wait a minute, you're bang out of order here, is because I'm going to show you something which was on one of the Twitter accounts, The Price of Football. I think it's a guy called Kieran who does it. And he basically put this graph together, 3 graphs, based on the fact that Celtic had thumped St Johnstone 6-0, and now we're into a game where they were absolutely battered. So wages, first of all, per million this is. There's Borussia Dortmund, 207.2 million in wages, 60.8 million Celtic's budget, 4.8 is St Johnstone. So Dortmund's wage bill is 3.4 that of Celtic, who spend 12.8 times the wage bill of St Johnstone. There's your first graph. There's your second one, Tam, which is revenue. Dortmund have 2.9 times the revenue of Celtic, who in turn have 24.4 times the revenue of St Johnstone. So And the last one that I think we should look at is squad. Dortmund's squad cost 6.1 times that of Celtic, whose squad cost 185.7 times that of St Johnstone.
That was high when I was at St Johnstone. It's dropped a little bit.
Look at the 0.3.
I mean, that sums it up for me. My point with Brendan, and this is where I want to get you guys played the game at a good level in Scotland, so I want your thoughts on this. With Brendan, that can happen. That type of result can happen, and it's happened to him before. My point with Brendan is, it's all right saying you want to play that way, and we had an argument about it before we come on here. I'm sorry, you got to stop. You've got to change the way you play, and I'll give you 3 Celtic managers who absolutely got it. Martin O'Neill, Gordon Strachan, and Neil Lennon looked and thought to themselves, how can we even lay a glove on some teams? Celtic did it because they'd spent a lot of money with Martin O'Neill's side, and they also had a different way of attacking. They had a world-class player. They had Sutton in there alongside him, more often than not Hartson. They had 2 holding, one of them who was a Champions League winner, and then, of course, Lennon. And then you had the 2 boys who could bomb up the flank. But what they did have was they had 3 central defenders who were all 6'1", 2 and 3. So suddenly you say, if we can't play through them, we can go and attack them for height, set pieces, the lot. Lennon did it with Barcelona. I asked him about Barcelona. How the hell do you beat Barcelona when they've got Messi? And if you looked at the Celtics...
Certainly not going to impress them.
Well, no. What he decided to do was he just said... it wasn't a great Celtic side. He just basically said, let them come in field into traffic.
Charlie McGrew played left mid that night, didn't he?
And remember the boy Adam Matthews? Mm-hmm. He was left back. So what they did is they let them play into traffic. They had a set piece, which Wanyama scores, and then they go direct and get a lucky break where Tony Watt scores the winner. Same again with Gordon Strachan. Manages to get them to a knockout stage, and they punched above their weight. But what they did was, they didn't go gung-ho, tippy-tappy, and this is where I'm hoping Brendan Rodgers will turn around and say, we just need to be
I don't think he will.
I know. I
don't think he will, Peter. I mean,
Tippy-tappy, Peter.
Eh?
What do you mean by tippy-tappy?
I just think he needs to mix it up better. I think he should have been more. I think he should have been more defensive. I mean, Neil Lennon said at one point in the commentary, "Just got to shut up shop here. 3-1, get it to half time, regroup." But I would go more defensive. I would go more defensive. Do you think they would have been on a 7-1 hiding if they parked the bus?
You would have get beaten nonetheless, but you're then changing a complete ethos of a team and everything that you built during the summer. I know Lenny had said after the game about putting into channels for Maeda. But the way Celtic were turning over the ball, even if they'd turned that down the channel for Maeda, the way that Dortmund had set up was the same way Celtic set up domestically here, where they just eat it up and they're back at you again, they're back at you again, they're back at you again.
I know, but you're suggesting it as if a manager can't change the way they play. Hugh Scott, who's on our message board here, says, Peter, I couldn't believe what I was watching last night. It's like they've learned nothing. I'm all for having a go, but sometimes it's about being practical at times. That's a great comment from somebody who watches the game.
Scott actually made a great point about Ancelotti, and you're saying about people changing, and you touched on it as well. They went toe-to-toe with Man City the season before and get battered. They went there again and they just sat in and they got a result. That's what Brendan needs to do. I don't think he will, Peter. I think Brendan's set in his ways. You can talk about ego and all this stuff. He's a top manager, but he won't. He's got principle. He won't change, Peter. And I think the best opportunity for Celtic to get results away from home against good sides is to play 3 at the back and play and flood the midfield 3-5-2, maybe 3-5-1-1.
See, last night you could have put someone in next to Callum McGregor and played that 2 instead of just Callum McGregor. The 2 in front at times, and I know they did get pinned back, but it allowed Brandt to get off the side of Callum on so many occasions, and it just played into their hands.
Do you not think Celtic could be a counter-attacking team?
Absolutely, they've got the pace, obviously, to do that. But he likes to be controlling. That's how his teams have always played.
It'd be interesting to see if he did that if it was a knockout, home and away. If he goes with that same sort of ethos, because I feel like he's doing this because there's more Champions League games. He can see where he's going to get his points that will hopefully get him progressed. In a knockout game, if that was the first leg, the tie's done. You know, I don't think you can do that if you're in it. But I think he knows he's got more games this year. All right, they will learn a lot more lessons last night than they have done all throughout the season for what they've played. I think he will be trying to show the players, listen, we have to cut out these silly mistakes that we're doing because at this level we get punished. And he'll be having one eye on the home games where he can get.
Peter, you spoke about other teams as well. I'm a big man for 3 at the back away from home in European games. I think you look at the last 15, 20 years, 2 of our teams have got to finals. Walter Smith's Rangers team and Martin O'Neill's Celtic team. What did they both play? Both played 3 at the back. They both defensively 3-5-2.
He's anti-Rangers, isn't he?
I was going to say that.
I forgot about them, aye.
What I will say about the Rangers Europa League. The Rangers team that got to the Europa League final.
Brilliant. You know what you did? You know what I love about it? You did it with such a soft voice. You were as well just walking up and punching him in the nose.
Oh, I wanted to do that a few times.
The thing with the Rangers Europa League team that got to the final is they chose their moments to play, and they did play through pressure at times.
Yeah.
It wasn't just total play. They done a bit of everything, and that's what got them, and a bit of luck along the way as well.
They mixed it up.
Rangers beat Dortmund.
Yeah.
No, but do you want me to tell you something? And this is the thing. I mean, you see it on social media, and I'd written it down just on the basis of that some Rangers fans, and rightly so, should wallow in what was, a really great victory. It absolutely caught everybody on the hop. Nobody expected Rangers to go and beat Borussia Dortmund. That Borussia Dortmund side, I took some of the names out of it that they defeated in the Europa League: Hummels, Akanji, Royce, Brandt, Bellingham, and Witsel. They're in that Borussia Dortmund team that Rangers defeated. Now, in that particular year, remember I was talking about the fact that Borussia Dortmund have only lost 2 home games in the Champions League in the last 22. Borussia Dortmund dropped down into the Europa League because they were knocked out of the Champions League that year. But the one game that they lost that year in the Champions League at home was Ajax defeated them 3-1. So they lost at home in the rare occasion that they have done in the last 22 home games, and they dropped into the Europa League, but they still had a quality side, and that's Rangers were able to, at times, soak it up, mix it, go along. That team that Van Bronckhorst had together did not have a situation where you wouldn't associate them the way Brendan's side is playing.
No, that's completely different.
It's completely different.
Listen, I think if you're Brendan Rodgers, you take last night in isolation and you take the harsh lessons from it. You watch it back as a team, and you watch it back as a team. You go, this is the reasons why we cost these goals. We're trying to do the things we've been doing every week. You get punished for it.
Yeah.
Guys found it hard in terms of the environment, which Ryan speaks about, but it's still an away defeat. It's not the end of the world. There's plenty of games to come. You look at it isolation, they'll go over it, and I think we will see maybe something different come Atalanta. I think they do play differently from Dortmund. I know.
Hold on a minute. We're only 22 minutes into the show and you've changed your tune. You've changed your opinion.
It's not the wind, isn't it?
Are they going to play differently or are they not?
I think. No, I still think they'll try and play through the press, because that's. He thinks of the reward at the end of playing through that.
So they're not going to change your mind.
They might change personnel or maybe swing the midfield about a wee bit to kind of give them a bit more protection if they do turn over the ball, in my opinion.
But you think they'll go after Atalanta again like last night?
Well, you can still go after them, but maybe not that high. You can let them come into you for 10 yards from you.
But it's what we're saying. All I'm saying to you is, we know he's a great coach. We know he's a good coach domestically. We know Celtic can outspend everybody and they could win this league by 15, 20 points this season, right? We also know that this is a poor league. This is a poor league. But Brendan brought back, has got some really good players. Prior to this game, prior to Slovan Bratislava, Brendan said, I'm happy with what I've got. He probably, in my mind, he would probably have wanted 1 or 2 more players. In his mind, he wanted probably 2 more players. But he's got a squad and he said he's happy. They produce a brilliant performance against Slovan Bratislava. Absolutely brilliant. This time, all I'm suggesting is change. Be more cautious. Try and play as a counter-attacking team. Pick your side according to that. Because if you're going to go and think you can do the same thing against a team that won the Europa League, and by the way, won the Europa League and they had some really good players. I mean, they were impressive. They shocked everybody in Europe.
Ancelotti adapted, and he's one of the best coaches in the world. He adapted from the season before Man City, and he got the right result. He sat in, he didn't go toe-to-toe with them. If he can do it, then any other manager can do it. And I think Brendan can, but I don't think he will.
Just out of curiosity, Ryan, on this basis, Dortmund had 14 shots on target, Celtic had 3. They had 53% possession. I honestly, at one point,
What was the final number on possession there?
53%.
To Dortmund?
To Dortmund. Now, I honestly...
Interesting, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Schmeichel was picking the ball out in the net every bloody 2 minutes, wasn't he?
Yeah. I sent a text to one of my mates and I went, this could be 9. This could be 9. Schmeichel made 7 saves. 7, and quite a few of them were good saves. And even then I thought he was at fault for one of the goals.
What about the penalty?
What's the problem with the penalty?
Soft, isn't it?
It's a kick. It's a kick on his leg. I've seen them in the last 2 months. Tam, have you? You remember the kick on the leg? As soon as you kick the boy's leg, even if you missed it, it's a penalty. It is soft, but it's a penalty. But you know, you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, what will he learn?
Can you imagine a Brendan Rodgers team away though, sitting at the edge of that? It's very hard to see that. Do you not think so?
He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it.
Well, listen,
he's not going to do it.
I would, if Brendan Rodgers picked a side that was there to park the bus, I would say, well done to you. You've learned. Change the way they play. Keep it tight. Pick them on there. You've got one of the fastest, fittest players in Europe, who he's just complimented as being one of these.
But these
superb.
teams, Peter, they play against these type of players all the time.
Absolutely,
they have the answers to them.
But if you are going now, if you are going to go and say he's not going to change, then I'm basically just going to read this out to you. Of Brendan Rodgers, 2-7-1 defeats PSG and Dortmund, a 5-0 at home to PSG, a 6-0 against Atletico, and a 7-0 away to Barcelona.
They are pretty good teams.
They are.
That PSG
They are.
game.
So don't get into the ring and think you can slug it with them. Change the way you go about your business.
I think what Scott's trying to say is that he's going into this game not as a one-off. It's not a two-legger. He's just going in it as being
Seen as a free hit kind of thing.
We're going to continue playing the way that we want to play because this way is going to get us results at this level, albeit Champions League level. Even within the Champions League, there's different levels. So I think he's just thinking, let's just keep it the same. Don't confuse the players. Continue the same process, and we'll get enough victories that will get us into the knockout stages. And if they do, everyone will forget about last night.
Yeah, I quite like Kenny Merchant, who's a big Aberdeen fan. I like his take on it. Peter, they better play defensive at Pittodrie or we'll hit them for 8.
That's the thing. They could quite easily go this weekend and score 7 themselves. You know what I mean? That is where the levels are at.
Yeah, well, listen.
But they should, according to that graph, shouldn't they?
What?
The graph of the different...
They won't know because the Scottish
spending
teams will
money.
set up and park the bus and it will still be 5-0.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, I agree. Listen, I'm not...
Thankfully, if they do, 12-0.
I'm not...
Imagine St Johnstone having a go.
I'm not at this
My
moment
God.
saying to you, you're wrong.
12-0.
I think the point that you're making is a very valid point. I'm just saying to you, if it was me, I'd say, Brendan, come on. If you are sitting down with your guys and you're going through a learning curve, you have to change. You have to change, Ryan. You cannot keep going in and getting spanked by them. You've got to pull off what the three previously good managers were able to do. Martin O'Neill said it continually and he'd spent a fortune. We punch above our weight. That was him saying that in the year 2000 onwards. Celtic have to punch above their weight. So by punching above their weight, I can remember commentating in Spain against Celta Vigo. They were getting absolutely battered. They had one moment when John Hartson absolutely turned the defender, felt him on his back, turned him and put the ball in the back of the net and they got a crucial away goal. And you're off and running, you know. But it's keep it tight, play very cautious and wait till you can pick your moment rather than...
Stay in the game, Peter.
Stay in the game.
Stay in the game. Build yourself into the game. Game was done after 22 minutes last night. Same with the other game you mentioned there, the 5s and 6s and 7s. The game's done after 20, 30 minutes. Try and frustrate, you know, and hitting the counter-attack. Try and score the first goal. I'm not saying stick 11 men behind the ball. Just be more pragmatic in your approach and a wee bit more defensive. And
I really want
even with Scott.
I know you do. I know. But
Even what Scott says in terms of pressing, start your wee bit lower block and then just let them come on to you, maybe 40, 50 yards, and then go and press them. But don't be going with a mad high line at the back and just going straight after them up to the goalkeeper like last night. It was mad.
here's another little problem that I think Brendan has, and this is where I think it was exposed last night. brutally exposed, is 3 out of the back 4 are well off it. Well off it. I mean, honestly, they're well off it.
But it's the same things. You're talking about high level.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is where I think, listen, this is not a criticism, it's an observation. I'm just saying to you, Taylor got hooked at half time. He didn't pick up his runner. His runner went
So that was absolutely rapido.
I know he was actually, but it was one of those. It was one of those. After you, Claude, here you get him, and then you've got
You find
no
an
harm,
Jeremy Frimpong.
no harm to Scales. Trusty's played for Sheffield United. And
The
you've
game
got
was
Johnson.
the game came too early for Trusty.
Definitely, I agree with you.
No question about it.
So the next one against Atalanta, I think it'll be really interesting. I can't wait to see what way he's going to line
I'm
up.
with you. I think it'll be interesting. That's when we're going to find out. We can all hypothetically say,
Yeah.
should do this. You'll really see what him and his team have learned from last night come that fixture.
I think he'll play the same way, Peter, and I think he'll just, Scott spoke about it earlier, they'll watch the footage and the video, and he'll look at different situations where they could have been better, and he'll say if we're better in these situations, we can play through their press.
Yeah. The last point on this before we move on, because obviously I want to talk Rangers, talk Scotland, talk Simo Valakari as well, is quite simply, I think, it's a battering. They take it on the chin, they go away and learn. We're waiting to see what way they'll line up. But the bigger picture here is the remit that I think Brendan Rodgers will be looking at. Can we get a knockout game from this new format? And that's by beating Bruges and beating Young Boys at home. And I think that's the key that he's got to keep in his mind.
Yeah.
These are the winnable battles. The other ones, we'll all sit back and watch how he lines up. If it was me against Atalanta, Ryan, 5-4-1.
Yeah, but like I said, I think he views the way that they played last
Look
night.
at Bond's face. Look at Bond. Look.
He's angry, isn't he?
Oh, he's raging.
He's not happy with that.
He's not having it.
I just think he believes that the way that they're going to get results in those games is by playing the way that they played last night. And these will be harsh, almost lessons on them to make them better in those games that he'll be wanting to do. Because if you start going 5-4-1 against Dortmund away and you somehow get a result, then everyone will be like, at home against Young Boys, why don't we set up like that? He believes that the way that he's playing just now will get those results in those games. So just continue on, get to the knockout phase, and everyone will forget about that.
There's no plan B. Do plan A better.
Well,
That'll be Brendan. That'll be Brendan.
can I tell you something? That was the catchphrase.
I think that's perfect,
That was
That'll be
the,
Brendan. That's what he'll say to the players.
that was the catchphrase from Brendan's first time. There's no plan A. Try plan A better. And
that's who he is. He's got his
That's
principle.
how he's been successful, Peter. Brendan.
He's better than us at it.
Yeah, of course he is. He's a top manager. And
But
Yeah,
he is.
it's-
But at the end of the day, you've got to look and you've got to deal with when you're getting into a ring with an opponent. You have got to work out a way as a manager, as a boxer, as anyone in any sport. If they are too strong for me in certain areas, how can I nullify that and somehow pull off a shock? That's what a manager's paid to do. You're paid to work out ways to get the end result. And that must mean the really, really good managers must mean you have to change. You cannot go in, as Neil Lennon said last night, and keep doing the same thing all the time. It just doesn't cut.
But Peter, if you as a coaching staff had watched their previous 2 games and you see they're conceding goals, to then go, and your biggest threat as a team is your attacking prowess, to then go away there and go, right, we'll sit in deep and look to catch them on the counter attack. There's no way he's doing that.
Are you summing up Borussia Dortmund in the last 2 games?
Well, that's what you would. That's how a coach would look at. They wouldn't look at the games for 3 months ago. They wouldn't. They would look at their recent games and where you can hurt them. That's what you do when you're analysing the team you're going to play. You won't look at the game in January. You won't look at the game in the first game of the season. You look at the most recent games.
Yeah, but you put it in perspective and you go, I don't want to prolong this agony or the debate. You look at St Johnstone, you think, St Johnstone being in the 4th tier of the Bundesligas. They'd be in the 4th tier. They're ranked rotten. You know, I mean, I don't know.
Like I said, they've gone downhill since I left. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd have sat in. But anyway,
I've got all the troops back. I've got everyone back.
That's when we're going to find
Let's
out.
park it, because at the end of the day, you're here now and you're here to get a kick, and I'm not letting him lift his head, by the way. We're just going to have to keep going at him, Tom.
Listen, there's arguments for both ways.
No, there's not.
There is, Peter. There is.
No, they've just been pumped
There is.
7-1. There's no
Listen,
argument.
I'm putting myself in Brendan Rodgers' shoes, and I've been very successful manager, and I am saying to the players, this is the areas that we need to be better against Atalanta. We're not changing for anyone. This is how we're going to play again. We need to be better in certain areas. If we're better in certain areas, I believe in you to go and get a result.
From this.
That's what a Brendan will do.
I agree with that point that you are making. I'm just saying it's not the right way to go about it. I think he's got to change the way they play. That's all I'm saying. To get a result.
You're on the ropes.
agree.
You're on the ropes. You're just waiting.
I think in the knockout stages, for sure.
Yeah.
But in this group stage, I think he's just going to keep it the same.
Salzburg 0, Brest 4, Stuttgart 1, Sparta Prague 1, Inter 4, Red Star 0, Barcelona 5, Young Boys 0, Leverkusen 1, AC Milan 0, Arsenal 2, Paris Saint-Germain 0, PSV 1, Sporting 1, Slovan Bratislava 0, Man City 4. So that was the games. We'll undoubtedly on Friday digest the Wednesday Champions League matches. Europa League, Rangers against Lyon. Blair Malloy, we'll hear from him shortly, but you give us your comments on how you think Rangers are going to do. We're going to read out a few of them. Thank you to so many people who've put across their point of view on Celtic last night. Obviously, listen, the other great thing about it, social media right across it.
Is everybody going with the defensive kind of way, like they go setting up with a 5 at the back, as you've said?
No,
What's the actual general response?
I mean, the general. Some people are arguing over my comment that the league is poor. I'm sorry, but the league is poor. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Last year, the league was poor. It's not a great league.
But it's yours.
I know it's ours. We love it. Listen. I can still go and enjoy a fantastic game.
Watching
I can
Scottish
go.
football.
So do I. He loves it. We love it. But the point is, I can still love English. He doesn't. I love English football, and I can see the level they're playing at. I love watching Scottish football, and I'll defend it. But you can't fudge the issue. It's not great. You know, it's just not great. The standard we're watching of other teams, it's poor.
It's not the level of what they play in week in,
we
week
can't
out.
even get teams into group stages. Hearts are in the Conference League by default. No,
Larner in the Conference League. Next time.
you know. So I don't know what point you're going for there. Let's have a look at the headlines first of all.
Hello, I'm Cara, and here are your daily news headlines on Wednesday, 2nd of October, sponsored by Arnold Clarke. Brendan Rodgers said he had never been involved in a game quite like last night's 7-1 defeat to Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League.
I've just said to the players afterwards, I don't think I've been involved in a game where I felt that every single mistake that we made got punished. And that's the level. It's, you know, any misplaced pass or moment that they had, it just seemed to end up in the back of the net.
Yanis Hadji was back training with the Rangers first team yesterday, as both parties seem to have come to a resolution that can see Hadji play for Rangers again. Arsenal beat PSG 2-0 in the Champions League last night, and boss Mikel Arteta was delighted with his side's performance.
It's a night to be really happy because we play one of the best teams in the world for sure, and to be able to perform and win in the way that we did, I think it's a really good sign for the team.
St Johnstone will be unveiling their new manager, Simo Valakari, today in Perth, so please make sure that you stay tuned to PLZ Soccer channels as we speak to the new man at his unveiling. Those were your daily news headlines on Wednesday, 2nd of October, sponsored by Arnold Clarke. For more exclusive content, please be sure to download the app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Brilliant stuff from Cara, Europa League, Rangers, Lyon. Blair Malloy was out there at the Rangers training centre.
Rangers are looking to make it 2 wins out of 2 in the Europa League this week as they take on Lyon at Ibrox tomorrow night. Manager Philippe Clement believes this is a competition that brings the best out of his players and the fans, but is wary of the threat that the French side pose.
It gets the best out of the players, it gets the best out of our crowd also. I think the European nights were the most special nights also, so I hope to see that tomorrow. But of course, we are also realistic about Lyon. It's a very good team. It's better for me than the teams we met in our group stage. I think it's the level of Benfica.
One player that won't feature tomorrow night is Yanis Hadji, as he's not selected in Rangers' European squad. However, he will soon be back in contention for Philippe Clement's men, having resolved a contract dispute that has seen him train with the B team thus far this season, and the manager says he's glad to have the issue resolved.
Yes, it's not an option yet, so there's a way to go, of course, but the more players you can have that can make a difference for your team, the better as a gaffer. So clearly I'm happy then that this situation that I didn't like to have is resolved now.
Facing Lyon could prove to be a lucky omen for the Ibrox side, as the last 2 times they've played them, they have went on to a final of European competition. Can they take one more positive step tomorrow night? They take on Lyon at Ibrox, and kick-off is at 8 p.m.
Yeah, thanks to Blair for that one. Rangers against Lyon. Hadji's back in the squad, but certainly not going to feature in this match. It's against the Lyon side that defeated Olympiacos on match day 1. Rangers with that good win against Malmo. So let's analyse this one then, because Lyon have got Benrahma from West Ham, Lacazette, former Arsenal player, Nemanja Matic, former Chelsea and Man United, Wilfried Zaha is another player that they've got in there. Got 2 or 3 others actually that we could go through who are all useful. So how do they approach this one? Is this a chance at home to build on the Malmo? Can they take the scalp of Lyon? Do you get that feeling from them?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of obviously how successful Rangers have been at Ibrox in terms of the Europa League competition, and if we're going off how well European teams have done in Europe, then Rangers have played more difficult teams at Ibrox and won over the years. So don't get me wrong, I watched them on Sunday. It wasn't a great performance, but the Malmo would have gave them a lot of confidence. I just feel if he gets it right in midfield, they could cause problems, because we know that this is going to be an all-out attack Lyon team, especially with the players you say there. But that battle between Zaha maybe on the left-hand side against Tav could be crucial.
Yeah, I feel a wee bit of nervousness now in him. We've unnerved him, haven't we? Because he could see the trap coming as we're waiting to see his opinion on it. But Rangers at home, I think Scott makes a great point on this. They're 11th in the French league at the moment. They're only 6 games into the season. And I look at the way they set up. It's a 4-3-3 they played against Olympiacos. They've got some tasty players. But I think is this the level really where Celtic and Rangers feel as if they're in with similar teams that they can take?
Yeah, I think so, and I think Rangers will fancy their chances. I obviously got it massively wrong last week, so apologies for that. I didn't think they'd get a result away, which they did. That will give them so much confidence going to Ibrox, and I think Rangers are very, very good in Europe. They have more of a counter-attack. They've got the players to fit that. They can sort of have the backs against the wall. They don't mind the dirty stuff away in Europe and at home as well, sorry. So, I think they've got a good chance of getting something. But nonetheless, it's Lyon. They have some very, very good players who can cause massive issues if they don't get tight enough to them.
Yeah. After you gave Tam a bloody nose earlier, you got it woefully wrong last week.
Yeah, I did.
We want to know, will you resign?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. I mean, at the Europa League level, Tam, I think there's a greater chance of seeing the results where you get a home game and you can defeat Lyon.
Well, we've seen obviously with Rangers getting to 2 kind of UEFA Cup finals and Celtic as well. That's a level where Celtic and Rangers probably should be at. I think you're right. Similar level teams. I think the Champions League is a bigger level, is a higher level altogether. But I think Rangers, the players seem to 3 lungs in these games. I don't know the run. It's just like they grow an extra leg for somewhere, and it's can't think anywhere.
But I'm just about to say, the Rangers fans that I've been speaking to this week are saying, please don't make it the Rangers that play Thames. We just want the Rangers.
They'll take that in isolation.
Yeah.
I think they looked leggy against Hibs. I think they were coming back from a tough away game, but the fans are always up for the big European games. Ibrox will be bouncing. We've seen that in the run to the final a couple of seasons ago. There is a levels, and the big thing for me is Lyon will come and think they're better than Rangers, and they'll just attack, and that suits Rangers down to a T, because 90% of the teams that come to Ibrox sit in, and that will suit Rangers, an open game, and they'll go and try and win the game. I think there'll be goals in it, Peter. I think that you look at
if Rangers take the chances though.
Yeah, in the final third, I think if it's a kind of basketball game and it's just, I think Lyon have got better players than Rangers personally.
They also have a big. Just before somebody jumps all over it, and I know they will. Lyon have a bigger budget than Rangers.
Yeah, they spent a fortune in the summer. They've got a big budget. They've signed a lot of players that people will know from English Premier League. But as Scott said earlier, they've beat better teams than that at Ibrox over the last few seasons. So I'm going to go for 2 each. I think that there'll be goals in the game. And if Rangers can take their chances, I think they can get a draw at the game. But I think they've got to give Lyon respect to beat Olympiacos. They won the Conference League in the first game, so they're a good side.
Yeah, I think. I'm going to go draw. Draw.
Sitting on the fence.
What type of draw? Give us the goals.
I'm going to go 1-1. There you are. And by the way, that's me being optimistic. I think Rangers really need to get at it. I don't think we can get to a situation where we're all watching Rangers produce the type of lacklustre against Hibs. I think it's got to be the European style that they play. What are you going for?
I think they'll get beat.
Yeah.
I think Lyon just have that too much. I can see it.
You just got to see Rangers getting beat every European game. Beat.
If there's by the way, Hugh McDonald did it for about 2 years.
I don't know.
But if there was a tenseness in you, there was a wee bit of nervousness.
And his shoulders were in there.
By the way, at least he's sticking to his opinion.
That's fine.
What
opinion did I not stick to?
We haven't even given it yet. We're waiting for your prediction. What is it?
I'm going to go 2-1 Rangers.
2-1 Rangers. Okay, I've got a draw. You've got Lyon to win.
2 each.
2 each.
I think it'll be goals in again, Peter.
Yeah. Give us your thoughts. It's always good to hear what everybody's got to say on the performance of Rangers. And you're right, they do seem to be a different team when they come up against other teams in European football. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I think when you look at the coefficient, the stats are there. And I always try and tell everyone, you try to the best of your ability. When you're researching things, you look at the forum, you look at the level of player, you look at the level of league. And I mentioned to every one of the journalists who works at PLZ, don't let your eyes deceive you. When you're watching teams and when you're watching their level and when you're watching the type of players they are, and then when you take into consideration all the stats and the context, you just got to look at it and don't allow yourself to become a fan when you're actually watching games, and especially with us and punditry. I could get it wrong. You can get it wrong.
Got it wrong last week.
You got it wrong last week.
Stelian Petrov said 4-1 to Celtic last night.
Stelian Petrov thought it was going to be 4-1 to Celtic, which, I just don't know where he got that. I don't know where he got that point from. You cannot make that assumption with a team like Borussia Dortmund, and I think Celtic have got to change. I think he's got to do something differently for me in that game. Rangers, on the other hand, they're at home. Nobody thought they were going to get something as good as they got against Malmo. This is a great chance for them. This league set-up could be good for Scotland to get quite a few coefficient points going, Scott.
Yeah, I think obviously I don't think any has kind of seen how the Malmo game would go, and the fact that it could have been a lot more damning for Malmo. That should have been 4 or 5 to Rangers, and that's when I think I look at Thursday night and the moments that they do get against Lyon, and I'm imagining it won't be as many clear cut as they did get against Malmo, but your Dessers, your Chernies and that, they've got to take the chances and give Rangers a real chance to go and win the game.
Okay, we'll give it your opinion. Give us your opinion on it as well. Don't forget, also in the feed, we try and read out more than a few of your comments. If you can, try and keep it decent and clean. We always like it. Tam, we haven't actually got the T-shirt printed this year, but we will do it. This is not the show for you if you just want to be abusive.
You've blocked all them, Peter, anyway.
I have actually blocked more than a few on it because we're making a stance against anybody who obviously says things that are a little untoward. It's the 21st century. We want people to be decent. If you love your football, give us an opinion. Absolutely batter us. We all get battered from time to time. Some of us know how to handle that criticism better than others. Tam throws it out there and then goes away into a darkened room and asks his wife if it's all right to come out.
You know
Have
that.
you been standing by it these days?
Yes, I always stand by my opinion, Peter. You know that. Good or bad.
Yeah, on Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, you must have changed your stance.
No, no.
Really positive. He was really positive on Hibs at the weekend.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Was I?
Okay, we've given our opinion on that. What about St Johnstone? Simo Valakari. Cara Henderson, our reporter, was up there at McDermott Park for the unveiling.
It's a new era here in Perth as Simo Valakari was today unveiled as the new St Johnstone manager here at McDermott Park. He knows Scottish football, he played with Motherwell in the past, and he says that he always had in the back of his head that he might make a return to Scotland.
I never ever take it granted that I would come back here. But when I started my coaching career, one of my these things was, yes, one day I would like to coach in Scotland. But I know how many good coaches we have here, how many, how the clubs are working, how difficult it is to get here. And that's why I'm very excited. I got this opportunity, thanking the owners for the trust, to give this opportunity. That's why I'm excited.
It doesn't get much harder for Simo Valakari in his first stint as manager of St Johnstone as they head to Ibrox this Sunday to take on Rangers. He says he knows the demands, he knows the culture of Scottish football, but insists the future is now, and that starts this week.
What the owners, doing, and we have people here every day working. I see a good future, but it's easy to talk here, easy to say this. We need to start doing it. We need to, and the future is now. We can't think about, okay, next year when we get more this and this, No, it's now. In football, you can't waste any days, it's now. That's why it's so important, get all these papers right and, we get to work.
So Simo Valakari and his St Johnstone team travel to Glasgow on Sunday to take on Rangers. He won't be in the dugout, he'll be in the director's box watching his team on, and he'll hope for a positive result, and PLZ Soccer will have you covered. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us all over our socials.
Brilliant from Cara. Following Simo Valakari, we wish him well. He's got 4 games to save his job.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's an exciting appointment for the St Johnstone fans. I think that supporters like to see somebody fresh, somebody that's not on the merry-go-round, get sacked, get another job.
To be fair though, he wasn't their top pick, was he? I think he was maybe the 3rd or 4th.
Ooh, controversial.
Yeah. Oh, right, you're putting up.
Welcome.
Yeah, well done. And a big hello to the Valakari family. House hunting at the moment, 3rd choice. Listen, he'd been linked, he'd been in the running, I think, with his old club, Motherwell.
He's always been mentioned there. He was a legend there.
Yeah, so, listen, the remit's simple for him. Keep them in the division.
Yeah, but I think looking at St Johnstone's squad, that's going to be a real difficult task for me. I think especially, like I said, I think there's a lot of players there that probably don't fit how he would like to play either. So his job's to go in and get a tune out of them. Obviously, we're judging him against what we've seen at Celtic, against Celtic last week, which was probably as best as Celtic have played this season. And then you flip back the following week, you've got Rangers at 8 o'clock on Sunday night. So it's no easy start. I know he won't be in the dugout, but they need to start picking up points somewhere down the line, because it could be a long season for St Johnstone.
Yeah. Now, with that in mind, we're still waiting to see who Hearts are going to plump for, and they've got Dynamo Minsk.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where Liam Fox. I was at Tynecastle on Saturday. They were rotten. They were honestly poor. I didn't see anything. Liam Fox must have been just absolutely bewildered. They didn't deserve a draw.
Really?
Just did not deserve a draw in my mind. I thought they were poor. And I think the manager, whoever he is, has got a big job in his hands to try and somehow get them organised quickly at the bottom. The points that Aberdeen are so far away from them now, and they'll be looking, the immediate thing is to get a manager in and get it changed to try and get them into the top 6.
I think probably the biggest worry for Hearts fans is that there's not been anyone linked. There's not been anything from the club about the direction that they want to go in, what kind of manager that they're even looking for. Touched on St Johnstone, they obviously went for Scott Brown first, and then it was the
lounge.
Yeah.
At least they've at least the fans have had some kind of direction in what they're going in. I've not seen one person that's been linked with the Hearts job or Hearts coming out to say that they want to speak to someone. So I think that's the biggest worry. It just feels like they've completely dropped the ball on this season in terms of, one, obviously the run that they're on just now, but two, having that sort of plan B. If you're going to get rid of Naismith, you would think that they have a main candidate that they wanted to go afterwards, and they don't seem to have that. And I just think it's the longer it drags on, you've been in change rooms before where it's just that result doesn't come and it just snowballs, and before you know it, you can be, I think third's almost completely gone. If not,
It will be, because they're obviously, I think they're 16 points behind and they play Aberdeen away.
And I think they're going to lose to Minsk. Honestly, I mean, you looked at me with an element of surprise. That only tells me that somebody must have reported on them as if they were good at the weekend. They must have been watching a different game from the one I was watching, because the Hearts fans were all on their case. There was nothing about them that suggested anything. I mean, how they got the equaliser was just
the lightweight
fortuitous. Do you know what? They've got nothing in the middle of the park. There's nothing on the wings to suggest.
Jan Danda, Ross County's best player last year. Spittle, one of Motherwell's best player last year.
They were all on the bench.
Ben Rice.
That was a big indication. Was the starting 11 had none of the 9 new signings in the summer. So that shows you, if you're just completely on the outside, that the recruitment in the summer is not good enough. As much as we think they're good players that they've brought in, Liam Fox and Lee Wallace and that have been there throughout that, albeit behind the scenes, they obviously don't think that those players are good enough to get into a team that's the bottom of the league. So that's where questions need to be asked of who brought these players in.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
What you will see is a new manager will come in and pick some of these players.
I think so, yeah. Something has to change.
Yeah.
Because you just keep doing the same thing and not getting the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Where have we had that before? Still, we're back at the top of the programme again. The Scotland squad, Steve Clarke.
It's all over you.
6-4-0, here we go.
Croatia, Scotland, Portugal on the way. He picked a squad. Obviously injuries and people dropping out, but it's a tough time, and I think even the Scotland manager acknowledges that.
So it's a chance for both Nicky and Liam, both experienced, dependable defenders who have had good club careers without getting the international recognition that hopefully they can get in the upcoming games. It's a testing time. It's a testing time for me. It's a testing time for the squad. But I've always been one that the injuries are there for everyone to see, and you can talk about them all day. For me, it's better to talk about the ones who are going to play, who are going to have a chance to play, who are going to have a chance to maybe, for some of them, to kickstart an international career.
Yeah, here's that Scotland squad in its entirety. Craig Gordon back in there, he wants to play. Angus Gunn, John McCracken, Nicky Devlin. Great for Nicky, I'm so delighted for him. Grant Hanley, Liam Lindsay, Ryan Porteous, Anthony Ralston, Andy Robertson, John Suter, Greg Taylor, Ryan Christie, Ben Doak, James Forrest, Ryan Gold, Billy Gilmore, Andy Irving, Kenny McLean, Scott McTominay, Lewis Morgan, Shea Adams, Lyndon Dykes and Lawrence Shankland.
Yeah, it's good to see a few fresh faces, Peter. I think Liam Lindsay's been doing particularly well down south.
Say Craig Gordon.
No, certainly not. Liam Lindsay, has been doing really well down there. Nicky Devlin, I think he's deserved. I think he's been very consistent over the last couple of seasons. It's an Aberdeen team that are flying. We've got a few injuries at right back, so I'm not surprised that he's coming. Andy Irving's an interesting one. Obviously, was at Hearts as a young kid.
Yeah.
Didn't really particularly do great at Hearts. Moved on and bounced about, but went and played. Was it Austria? Went and played in Austria, and then got a phenomenal move to West Ham. From I think Austria, and it'd be interesting to see how he gets on as well. Ben Doak, I think, was the reports are he was outstanding last night. He had a really good game. So it's good to see some fresh faces in there, Peter. And maybe the injuries will force him into playing some of them, but I still think he will revert to the tried and trusted.
Okay, interesting enough. I think Craig Gordon might come back in.
I think he will, yeah. I think he's probably the best keeper.
You don't think Angus Gunn's firing?
There you are. It took right to the end there. I don't know why we should just persist with it. But that was the last hope for him to get something in, and he's managed to do it. Thanks to Paul Brady, who says, Peter, 12-5 Minsk, Hearts are 19-20.
Minsk are outsiders. Oh.
So, there you are.
Put them in with Leon for a double. It's a joke, by the way. It's a joke. It's a joke.
That's today's clip. Thanks very much to Scott for his opinion. Thoroughly enjoyed his crack today, and of course Ryan as well as Tam McManus. Hopefully you did too. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. There's competition coming up. We're going to be giving away an Aberdeen top, the third strip, the away one, yellow and black. Look out for that. We're going to be giving away lots of goodies coming up all the way through to Christmas. So some really good competitions for you to enjoy on PLZ Soccer. Hopefully you'll hit the subscribe button. Thank you for your support. It's been absolutely magnificent. And thank you for enjoying all of the content we are producing for you. From the guys here, thank you for watching and listening.